a wonderful two-day meeting, and I think it's only appropriate that I begin by not only thanking what Aruna has done, but by appreciating the importance of what she has done, she and her colleagues. So I think tonight, Aruna, you can sleep well and not worry about tomorrow. You've done a magnificent job, it's never been done before. Now, Aruna has asked me to speak on GMOs and India's food sovereignty. I can actually summarize in one sentence. And that's that GMOs shall not only destroy India's food sovereignty, but they will destroy India's sovereignty. And that's what concerns me far more than anything else. Now I can end here, but if you wish me to construct the socio-economic political argument on the basis of which I am making the statement, I would be happy to do so. But that means patience for another few minutes. So do I have your permission? Well, friends, I think we must begin by realizing that today, even though colonialism has disappeared, and India played a very important role in that, but the desire to control the destiny of countries hasn't disappeared. That's a political fact. We had, decades ago, two superpowers, and both had their areas of overriding influence. We had the USSR, and I remember the interventions, they called interventions, but they were really invasions of Hungary, Poland, Czechoslovakia, personal experience of that, and the United States, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, the fact that it's common knowledge that Saddam Hussein, Khomeini, or Osama bin Laden were actually creations of this great country. As of now, as it turns out, such invasions are not kosher, and that will not happen again. One can safely predict that. And there's only one superpower today. So the strategies to acquire control will have to be different. I think we must realize this as a political economic fact. Now, I dare say that there would be three components of this strategy of acquiring control over the destinies of countries, of nations. First is to control the biggest business in the world. The biggest business in the world is food business. So the controlled food business. The second is how do we do that? So do so by liaison with those industries, multinational corporations, which under the pretext of business will control food production. Control food production. The third is that recognize that primary food material is grown in fields, requires seeds, requires agrochemicals, and therefore one must liaison with those multinational corporations, large organizations that are working in these areas. And as has been said over and over again in the last 2 days, that just about 10 multinational corporations led by Monsanto probably control over 90% of seed and agrochemical production in the country. So obviously to maintain monopoly, these multinational corporations must strategize. The first element of this strategy would be to revoke intellectual property rights. And genetically engineered seeds, especially hybrids, provide an avenue for such IPR under TRIPS and WTO. Now I must here interject and share with you the fact that the TRIPS agreement actually does allow you to override every other clause in the TRIPS agreement. Clauses 7, clauses 8, and clauses 27. We have never invoked those clauses. In fact, if we invoke those clauses, then we can even abrogate product patent in the drug business. We haven't done that. So there is a button there. So we have Monsanto's BT cotton, BT brinjal, numerous versions, 1 gene, 2 genes, stacked genes, 3 stacked genes, and so on. And we have the herbicide, Roundup Ready, resistant crops, rice containing vitamin A advertised. You can get all your daily requirements of vitamin A by eating 5 or 6 kilograms of golden rice, and they will convince you that that's better for you. After all, you can substitute by carrots, but carrots rabbit food. Rabbit seeds carrots, not human beings. So that's where the public relations comes in. So after working out this strategy, MNC's marketing GMOs, the next step is to choose the victim of this propaganda, of this strategy. What are the criteria that should ideally be satisfied by such a victim? Should be an important developing country, large country, populous country, large proportion of the population should be engaged in agriculture, small farms rather than large farms. Also that those who are engaged in agriculture should be ignorant, should be poor, yet the country should have a high level of scientific and technological expertise, should be run by governments that accept to be a follower, willing to accept the hegemony of another country, corrupt, so that you can corrupt them, you can entice them, and should have enough number of rich people to support you. India happens to be such a country. So India has been a target for Monsanto. I know that from my personal experience, but probably most of you are not aware of, that much before Monsanto and my eco deal was struck, how Monsanto tried to get into the country. I don't have time to tell you about that. But as I said, that these requirements were very clear, they were pre-planned, predetermined, and they were in India being the target was something which had been thought of a long time back. So India has been a target. Monsanto, Syngenta, Dow, for marketing GM crops and agrochemicals made by the same company. Please remember that Dow is now known to have bribed Indian officials. It's now in public, in fact, in the public domain, has bribed Indian officials to market their pesticide, which was not permitted to be marketed elsewhere. And no action was taken, even though those people who bribed had been identified. So India is a large populous country. There are 10 major technological revolutions that have happened: green revolution, atomic energy, space revolution, white revolution. We are the largest producer of milk, and so on and so forth. And roughly 80% of Indians live less than what would be today in terms of market parity, $2.5 a day. 64% of Indians derive their total sustenance from agriculture-related activities. 70% of India lives in villages, and 75 to 80% uneducated for all practical purposes. They may be literate, but not functionally literate. More than that, 1990 onwards, let's accept this. I mean, let's not shut our eyes to this. That from 1990 onwards, India has been increasingly a camp follower of the United States of America. And I'm sure that will not make my friends from the United States happy. I'm sure of that. That's why I can make that statement without any hesitation. What is the evidence? Indo-US Knowledge Initiative, Indo-US CEO agreement. I've text of all of this. What we did to Iran when the question of voting for Iran's nuclear program came up. Now FDI in retail. We have done everything to protect Dow, which is indirectly responsible for what has been happening in Bhopal. We have 350 tons of surface waste lying there. enormous amount of contamination of soil and water by Union Carbide, which has been acquired by Dow, and that was Dow's responsibility. But we don't want to touch Dow because it might bring FDI in the country. The nuclear agreement and the very strong World Bank connections of those who are actually governing the country in some ways. So we have had 10 years of BT cotton, attempt to market it winter. Large numbers of GM crops in the parkland. I'm the Supreme Court nominee on the Genetic Engineering Approval Committee. And the last list we have is about 50 crops that are in the pipeline, various stages of development. Some of them actually ready for BRL trials, which means just about ready to be marketed. If only they had no opposition to it. But unfortunately for the government, fortunately for us, they had problems. The other side. There was developmental resistance, there was secondary pests, there was depletion of soil, failure in rain-fed areas, BT cotton, with animal deaths, farmer suicides related to BT cotton. We had back marketing of seeds. In fact, the government of Maharashtra has fined Monsanto for creating artificial scarcity of BT cotton seeds. Then enormous new evidence didn't exist 15 years ago on adverse effects of GM crops in general on health, animal health, human health, soil, environment. But there have been attempts to put a curtain on it, even though there's no question that science behind all of this has been extremely rigorous. But then again, to counter these attempts to put a curtain on this all, unfortunately, companies like Monsanto who attempting to do this essentially drunk on the brew of power, without responsibility. Power without responsibility. When that happens, someday you have to pay for it. They didn't realize that a perfect crime has never been committed. They tried to commit a perfect crime, but a perfect crime has not been committed. So what happened? January 2010, 14 states of India, 10 of them in writing, said to the Environment Minister that they don't want BT winter. And the Environment Minister put a indefinite moratorium on BT winter. Some half a dozen states have now said that they do not want any, they would not allow any field testing. That's the situation as of today. And this number is increasing. As I said, Maharashtra government has now fined for the first time Mahiko, in which Monsanto has a 26% stake, which is a controlling stake. If you have a 26% stake in the company, then you actually have a veto power. So when they find Mahiko, it actually means they find also Monsanto. And of course, the decision in the Genetic Engineering Approval Committee that it will not consider any application for a field trial unless the company asking for the field trial has obtained the permission of the state. So all these become impediments. So India is still a free country. And that's what we want to be, to remain. So the nexus between the multinational corporations, the United States guiding between the lines, and our politicians and bureaucrats, and our rich, has so far failed. But let's not forget that it's there, and that's a battle that we need to fight. And we now have to therefore work towards making this failure of this nexus working and affecting the lives of all of us, permanent and irrevocable. Ladies and gentlemen, wish us well in this effort. very much.